Hello, good afternoon. Only 45 minutes late, but we got some pizza, so we all in a good mood this afternoon. You will be, because by the end of it you'll be thinking, wow, I know so much about freelancing, I'm going to quit UEL, start my freelancing career today. Please don't do that, that was a joke. Anyway, good afternoon. I'm Seb, I'm with Matt. I'll do a quick intro properly in a second. This afternoon is brought to you by Careers and Student Enterprise, or Career Zone, and this event is called Love Your Career. Me, myself and I is freelancing for me. So, as I said, I'll let Matt introduce himself.
I'm one of the career coaches. I'm the career coach that is paired up with arts and creative industries, so we'll talk more about the kind of things we can help you with. I'm tag team with Seb, who leads on working with startups and freelancers to cover all bases. But in terms of my personal background, I think we've both had businesses ourselves, both worked with lots and lots of businesses, both freelancers and startups. So we hope we've got some great experience to draw on.
Yeah, exactly as Matt said, we both had our own businesses. I'm business student enterprise advisor here at UEL. So if you're interested in freelancing after this talk, you're like, yeah, I'm going to start today or tomorrow, you come and find me. If you're looking at setting up a startup, any sort of business within careers and student enterprise, you come to my team. We're a very kind of small team within student enterprise. So, what are we going to be doing this afternoon? Why are we all here? The pièce de résistance and all of that stuff. We're going to be giving you an overview of freelancing. Yay! Can I have a round of applause for freelancing? Just make sure you're all awake. Yes, exactly. Everyone's excited by freelancing.
Can I check something? Is anyone already, would anyone think of themselves as a freelancer? Yeah? A few nods, so you're already working as freelancers. Good. We will be drawing on your knowledge and expertise. There's no escaping.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's great to see there's already some freelancers or people who are really keen to get freelancing today. So we're going to give you an overview of freelancing. We're also going to give you 3 practical activities which you're either going to love us or hate us for, and by the end you wish you hadn't come to the session. I hope that's not the case. But the idea is we don't want to bore you to death. We want to keep you awake, we want to keep you engaged, and it's all so you have the opportunity to put yourself in the mindset of the freelancer, so we're not just going to lecture at you and tell you what it's like. And then at the end, we'll have a bit of time for some reflection, thinking about what we've covered off, and we'll ask that vital question, is freelancing for me? So what actually is freelancing? This is the lecture-y bit, just to warn you. We're going to get this bit out of the way. What is freelancing? Well, there's kind of 2 main streams to that. You can either register yourself as self-employed, or you might form a company. Can I just have a quick show of hands? Has anyone done either of those things in this room? Has anyone registered as self-employed or a limited company? Okay, a couple of people. And you might also know them as these terms. So you might hear being self-employed as having a side hustle, being a freelancer, self-employed, obviously, gig work, gig economy. That whole big thing about, is a Deliveroo driver a freelancer, are they a gig worker, or are they an employee? Now, if you form a company, there's terms such as going limited, limited company, private company, and things like that as well. So there's kind of 2 main streams. What can you do as a freelancer? Well, you can do anything and everything. Can someone shout out what they're studying? Give me some courses. What are people doing? Graphic design. What else? Yeah, okay, what else? Fine art, anything else? Okay, so you can do all of those things as a freelancer. You may decide you want to go and work for a corporation or a company where you can do those things, but actually you might decide that you want your career to be varied. One minute you might want to be doing video production, you might want to be creating websites, you might want to do graphic design, all of those things. As a freelancer, the choice is yours to make that career what you want. So, I've got a quick quiz for you all. Fact or false? I'm going to read them out, and then I want people to just shout out what they think is true and what they think is false. So, as a freelancer, I can't get a mortgage. I don't have to pay any tax. I can be flexible with who I work with and for how long I work with them. I need an online portfolio. Don't get sickness or holiday pay. And I can negotiate my payment. Who wants to have a go? What's true, what's false? Interesting. Okay, any other ideas? Yeah, I'd say, does everyone agree that's probably true? Yeah, okay. Don't get sickness or holiday pay. Who think that's true or false? So you think you don't get sickness or holiday pay? Anyone else? Shall I reveal the answers? So, too late. You can't get a mortgage, that's false. You absolutely can get a mortgage as a freelancer. So if you're thinking about your futures and your future careers, yes, you don't have to worry about that. Don't have to pay any tax. Well, the chances are you're going to have to pay some tax no matter how much you earn. Can I be flexible with who I work for and for how long? Yes, absolutely you can be flexible. That's one of the whole points, one of the scope, the reason behind existing as a freelancer. Do you need an online portfolio? I'd say so. You're really going to struggle out there, especially to begin with, if you don't have an online portfolio. And unfortunately, you don't get sickness or holiday pay. So you need to factor that into the rate and the amount that you get paid when you charge. And can you negotiate your payment? Absolutely, you should do. You're a freelancer. That's one of the whole points of doing it, is to have that flexibility. As you can see, the UK as a whole, I'm stood in the way, is a very entrepreneurial nation. We love to set up our own businesses, we love to start our own businesses, and a survey just before the pandemic of a lot of the workforce in the UK, 75% of people in London, in the very place that we are right now, would like to start their own business. So you're in good hands. It's a very popular and way of thinking about progressing your careers. So, I'm going to hand over to Matt, who is going to bring us into this day in the life of being a creative freelancer, and that's starting off with pitching.
Thank you, Seb. So as Seb says, rather than kind of stand here and tell you about what freelancing might entail, we wanted to give you an experience of it for yourselves. So we've picked 3 skills which we have both learned are absolutely crucial to you being successful and kind of achieving good balance and effectiveness in starting your business. And the first one we're going to start off is pitching. Anyone know what pitching is? Anyone know what pitching is? What's another word for pitching? Presentations, yeah. Could say sales, might be marketing, networking. So basically this is the bit, wait till the plane goes over, which is all about how you present yourself to potential clients in order to secure work. But I don't want you to think so much about kind of Dragon's Den style pitches where it's kind of you against a kind of hostile kind of audience where you've basically got to encapsulate everything you've got to offer in 2 minutes and there's no kind of interaction. I want you to think of pitching as far more like a two-way conversation. And I've started with a couple of quotes. You might think that's surprising, but if you read anything about selling effectively, you'll see that a lot of emphasis is on the listening part of the conversation. This is true of any relationship, any kind of conversation. So I like this quote sort of on your left. So most people think of selling as the same as talking. The most effective salespeople know that listening is the most important part of their job. So it's easy that we think of these kind of amazing salespeople who've got the patter, they know what to say, but actually listening to what the client has to say, what they need, for all the clues they give you about how you could best work with them is almost as important, but potentially more important than the actual talking that you do. And from Tony Robbins, a very famous motivational speaker, often when we're selling to people, we focus on what we need. We need the business. This is what we can do for you, rather than what they need for us. So I just want you thinking of this pitching process as a two-way conversation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce a brief. It's going to start off quite general. So the brief is a new bar somewhere in East London is looking for local creatives to help launch it. So my understanding is that you're all in the creative professions, so designers, photographers, filmmakers. So whatever your discipline is, have that kind of lens on it. That's fine. I've kept it as open as possible for the purpose of this activity. And Dan, if you're kind enough to switch to Mentimeter, I need you to get out your phones or your laptops. And I want you to put in, what is not showing, Dan, is the number. So if you go to menti.com, and then either Dan or I will read out the number. Seb is grappling for it now, so take a moment, grab your phones, menti.com, whether you're listening at home, sort of at USS, and then do you have the 1401? 7683. I will repeat that several times. So Seb again. 1401 7683. If people need me to say it again, I'd be delighted to do so. It's sounding like a bit of a rap. Yep, and maybe Dan, if you can put it in the chat. So one more time, just for luck.
Find it again now.
Menti.com. Never worked with children, animals, and Mentimeter.
Yeah, it's not letting me put it through.
Gone. Should I come out of this?
No, it's
1401 7683. So hopefully some of you at least got that, and we will start to see some information on the screen. So what sort of information would you need from your client for you to think about what you could offer them, to think about your brief, think about your proposal rather? Menti.com. I will do it the old-fashioned way and take some answers in the room if Menti does not perform for us. Have we got anything coming through, Dan? Okay, looks like it's not working amazing well, so I'm going to... Oh, hourly pay, scope, excellent. Hopefully a few more drifting in. Yeah, target audience theme, brand identity. Okay, some good thinking here, location. We've got a little time limit, wow. Okay, anything else? Usage. Intentions, yeah. What's important? Perfect. I'll give you 30 more seconds while that goes, but I think you're covering off a lot of the important ones. So someone's mentioned hourly pay, so I'm going to approximate that to budget. So basically, what is on offer from the client. So remembering that for some projects, they will be looking to retain you based on a time basis. So I need someone for a couple of days, and there is a rate of X. Other people might have an overall budget for the project. So it might be for you to do that kind of calculation and work out what the equivalent hourly rate would be. I'm glad somebody mentioned target audience. So basically, who is this bar supposed to be appealing to? And one thing I'd add to that is there any research? Has the bar owner done any research, whether it's kind of formal, informal, some polls to find out what the target audience might be after? I think you talked about the brand identity, so that might be your job to create the brand identity, but are there any design touch points, any style guides, any reference points for the work that you might want to do? We talked about the scope, so what's included, what's not, what are the outputs that they might want. And then just one thing that hasn't been touched on there is kind of who are the other stakeholders and suppliers? Who else is involved in this project? And a really important one, how does the client like to work? What's the process? What's the sign-off process? Are they in a position to actually approve this? Are there other people that need to be factored in? So thank you all for adding that in. Dan, if we could switch back to the PowerPoint feed, that would be amazing. Sorry to keep you running around. Dan's trying to have his lunch here. Okay, perfect. So we've got all that information. So let's say we've had a really helpful client, sometimes they are, and they've given us some information. And here's a sample of the information that they've given us. So there's a budget of £1,500, so it's not huge, but it's a little bit of something. there's a whole variety of potential deliverables. So I've kept it open. So if you're here from performing arts, if you're here from dance, hopefully there's a deliverable that could relate to you, whether that's events, film, photography, logos. So it doesn't hugely matter. We're going to say the time frame is 4 weeks till this launch party. And the target customers are sort of young professionals in the East London area. Not very specific, but keeps it quite open-ended. So here's what I'm going to get you to do. So I want you to prepare your own pitch. So whether you're at home or whether you're here in the room, and there's going to be 3 parts to the pitch. Who are you? So introducing yourself, what your discipline is. You might talk about your qualification, what you specialize in, what type of organization you are. I'll give you an example in a minute. What services can you offer? And third, 3 reasons why you would be great for this job, this kind of brief. And there's some hints there for things that you can think about. So just to give you an example, so let's say I was in my role as a career coach. I might say, hi, I'm Matt. I'm a career coach and I specialize in working with creative students in higher education. What services can I offer? Well, I offer one-to-one coaching or group workshops, particularly on topics such as networking, on collaborating, or getting your social media profile to create a strong personal brand. Why would I be great for the job? Well, I've worked in loads of different creative organizations and I've got a lot of experience in hiring freelancers. I might say that I have expertise. I'm very well qualified to work with people's mindset as well as their skill set. So I cover both the important things. And I've successfully worked with, let's say, over 100 students to help them start their business or find their career. So that would be an example of my pitch, not for this example, obviously, but for something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 minutes to come up with your pitch. So you can write it on your phone, write it down on paper, laptop, whatever it is. For those of you that are in the room, I'm going to invite you to get into pairs and kind of move around the room. And you're going to have a turn each to kind of deliver your pitch and then give some feedback. If you're on your own at home, that's fine too. Likewise, I want you to take 5 minutes to prepare your pitch. Then you're going to make your pitch to a mirror in your room if you've got one, or you can put your video on your phone and you can make it to your phone. I want you to have that experience of actually presenting it in a real situation. And then for you, it's going to be a case of reflecting on your own performance and whether you thought there were areas for improvement or what you thought was strong about it. And hopefully you'll take inspiration from some of the feedback that we get here in the room. So, any questions on what I'm asking you to do? Is that clear? So, if you want to get yourselves into pairs, I think that's going to work best. So, find someone to tag team with, find a space. And then I'm going to give you, take 5 minutes or so to kind of write your pitch, to draft something. So I'll give you a note when the 5 minutes is up, but if you're ready before that in your pair, then feel free to start. And then after you've had a chance both to pitch, it's time for some feedback. Okay, so basically the context is it's a new bar. They're looking for local creatives to help launch it. So whatever your creative discipline is, speak from that perspective. These are some of the parameters that you might want to kind of reference. And obviously you're going to speak to the bits that you could deliver on based on your discipline. And then these are the 3 things I want you to hit off. Some way of introducing who you are, what services you can offer, and most importantly, 3 reasons why you'd be great for the job. And yeah, see how you get on. So I'll turn it over to you guys. So I've just got 5 minutes on the timer. I'll give you a shout when that's up. So take that time to prepare your pitch, and then I look forward to hearing the hum of conversation in a minute. If anyone wants any help formulating their thinking, just give us a shout and we will come over and talk to anyone who needs a hand. Just going to have a look on the chat and see if there's anything from the chat as well.
How about you?
People leave longer or?
No, I think we're good to move on.
Amazing. Okay, sorry to cut you short if anyone's still in mid-flow. How was that for you guys in the room? Hands up if you've pitched before for any work. Hands up if you've pitched to clients for work. Got a couple of people. Hands up for whom this was the first time you've ever had a go at pitching yourself as a freelancer. Yeah? Okay, amazing. Let's hear from you. So for those of you who it was your kind of first time, what did you take from that kind of experience? How was it for you? What did you find comfortable, uncomfortable, easy, difficult? How did it go? Yeah. Do we need a microphone or? Don't worry. Just yeah. I'll repeat it if needs be. Yeah. Please go on.
It's good. It's just being on the spot, basically. Like my mind went completely blank, and I was stumbling over my words because I hadn't practiced it that much. And I think through practice you can get there, but it's also you don't know the people you're talking to, and I think through that there's a certain anxiety behind that. That can also, even when you practice 100 times, it will always be different depending on the person, I guess. And it's meant to be more of like a natural conversation more than just like a one-way conversation being practiced and all.
Yeah. Thank you for being honest about that. No, it's not. It's quite contrived to set up, so you're not in conversation really with someone as you would be in a real situation, and you kind of are doing that kind of pitch situation. But yeah, it's good to be sort of aware of kind of those kind of that it can be quite sort of an uncomfortable thing to do. So the more you practice it, I mean, it's like networking. So if you're meeting people for the first time, you know, whether it's at a bar, an event, or a kind of a business event, the first times you do it, it may feel quite unnatural. It may feel quite uncomfortable. But it really is the kind of thing that the more you do it, the more you're confident in your patter, the more fluent you are, and the more natural it comes to you. If it's still something where, you know, you experience a lot of anxiety and discomfort, then there are kind of different strategies that you kind of can look into that can help with that. But really, it is a case of the more you put yourself out there, the more you have these conversations, the more comfortable they become. I don't think anyone in their first times, you know, in their first few years of practicing, sort of it comes totally kind of naturally. Do you have any words of wisdom on that front, Seb? How to get comfortable with those kind of situations?
I think it can be really difficult sort of thinking how to get comfortable, but I think whenever you put yourself in a situation, whether or not you're pitching for work in person or online, make sure that you kind of own that space, get there early, walk around. If it's online, it's your own bedroom, it's your own house, whatever, use that. Become really comfortable in your surroundings, make sure you're really prepared for that as well. And I think some of the conversations I was having as well, just to kind of tail that off, is whenever you're pitching for that work, think about what's your why. What makes me unique? Why should you buy from me? And actually one of the questions I asked all of you was, would you buy from yourself? If you were pitching to yourself for that piece of work, would you hire you? If the answer is maybe or no, there's a bit of work to be done there. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it shows there's a skill that you need to work a bit more on to secure that work. Because it is, you know, it is a competition out there, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah, thanks, Seb. And for those of you who are following on online, definitely, unfortunately, you're going to have to be your own critic. But it's exactly that question that Seb said. Would I buy from me? And if not, what was it? Was it the level of confidence? Was it the content? What might I think to do differently? And a few of the things that were coming out of the conversations I was a part of is kind of there's a balance. There can be too little information, but there can also be too much information. So actually choosing how much information to give the client is critical. Not kind of almost backing yourself into a creative corner by saying, right, I'm really strong at this kind of illustrative style, when actually the client, that might not be their thing. So teasing out from them which sort of thing they're interested in and getting their reference points, so then you can pitch them and show them how you can meet what they were looking for, as we said before. And also making sure that you mention relevant other work and how it's relevant. And bringing other skills or things that will give you a competitive advantage that might help you stand out from your competitors. Two more, I'll just take two more sort of reflections from that experience. Anyone else want to share how that was for them and a takeout from that in terms of how they might build on that for other pitch situations they're in? Anyone else want to share how that was for them? Don't be shy, don't be shy. It's about learning your pitching skills. Yeah, do you want to share?
Well, I feel like I was somewhat cheating because I was halfway through writing a covering letter yesterday to apply for a job in a gallery. So I feel like I've half got this pitch already. So I didn't find it too hard at all. I only had to tweak like certain aspects of like, instead of me focusing on gallery installation, it would be like, let me do a mural in your bar, or let me invite, local community to come in and do projects and get involved with the locals. I feel like it's not too hard of a. Plus, that way you get to dilute the workload on yourself. I feel like I was half loaded already for this.
Well, you know what? I don't know if anyone else picked up on that, but I was already getting excited by that little glimpse of your kind of pitch, because I was already visualizing, what a great idea to get people coming into the bar and experiencing it. If you're working with, other community organizations to get people into your mural, what a great example of how you've used your skill set to kind of actually add value for that beyond just going in and doing a job. You've actually turned it into a marketing activity itself. So I love that just from that little glimpse. And how was it delivering that verbally rather than writing it in a letter?
It wasn't too. Well, I feel like I would definitely need to practice it more. Quite forgetful, so I would have to revise it for a few hours before I got anything convincing. But I feel like I could certainly get the main information out there. Let's create a community event. Let's invite local artists. This will get the community involved to want to go to your place.
Yes.
So I feel
Very cool. Very cool. And I think that is the case. It is a case of practicing. You don't want to sound like when you, obviously if you're in a client situation, you're going to be responsive to that particular conversation. But especially if you're meeting new people, if you're meeting a client at an event or for the first time, and you do want to have a bit of a patter, there is a kind of a balance to be struck between getting it so it's fluent, you know what your selling points are, you know what's different about you, so that comes out confidently, you know what you're saying, but equally tweaking that and adjusting that from what you've learned from the other person so you can kind of fit it to what they're kind of looking for. One more reflection. I think you had your hand hot tentatively up. What did you take from the exercise that will be helpful?
So as you said, if I'm straightforward, but I still need to improve my vision, they need to know what I can give them and what will be great for them, except my technical skills.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so run for your name again?
Jaideep.
So was amazing at sharing his technical skills and his level of competence, and then it was a bit around, where's the inspire bit? There's the kind of the inform bit, but there's also a bit of getting them excited. Sorry, what was your name? Dominic. So Dominic sort of gave us a little taste of what that inspire bit could look like. So if you put those two things together, that's when things really start to kind of sing. So I'm going to hand over to Seb now to take you into the next part of your freelancing day.
Going on. So you've had the morning, you've woken up, you've had your breakfast, you've done the pitch. Went well? You think it went well? Good pitch? Well, I've got news for you. You've been hired, so it must have gone somewhat well, because they want you. They want you back. So now, the all-important question, how much should you get paid? If we skip back to this project here, how much should you get paid? How much? If we could just pop to Menti, can we just get a switch over to Menti so people can see the results broadcast? And I just want you guys to pop in. Someone put before millions. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? How much should we get paid? Let's see what we start to get rolling in.
I think, Seb, you might need to do it in the room.
Might do it in the room? Yeah, okay, let's do it in the room. How much should we get paid for that project? Any ideas? Who wants to vote on it?
So Seb, it might be slightly confusing because obviously I'd suggested the client had a budget. So do you want to clarify sort of what you wanted from people?
Yeah, so obviously the client had a budget, but one of the all-important things is that you can negotiate, okay? So this is using your skills of negotiating. You said, okay, right, you want this budget, but actually they wanted quite a lot from you. They wanted a video, an event, logo, signage, social media campaign, and they wanted to do it all in 4 weeks. They've set a budget of 1,500, but you've said, actually, I need to go away and think about that. What do you think you should charge them? What do you think would be a reasonable amount to go back to them and say, actually, I'd like to get paid X, I'd like to get paid Y? Any suggestions?
You do a higher or lower game.
Higher or lower game, yeah.
Hands up if you think you should get paid higher than 1,500. Okay.
That's pretty unanimous. A couple of people.
That's everybody. For anyone that put their hand up, why?
Why should we get paid high? Yeah, short amount of time, a lot of deliverables that they're asking for. Anything else? Yeah, very labour intensive. Should be another slide. Yeah, this should be one after it. Yeah, very labour intensive as well.
I think that's a really important point that we'll probably come on to, is there's almost an opportunity cost, isn't there? If you take that client and that's going to dominate your time for the next 4 weeks, then that's the only work you're going to be getting potentially in that period.
Anything else? We all pretty much voted higher. What's this side of the room thinking? Why should it be higher?
Just because, like, if you, like what he said, with it being 4 weeks and you're going to work for hours for that whole 4 weeks,
yeah.
You're going to want to pay your rent for that month and, like, have everything you can get,
Yeah, exactly. Any other ideas?
No, leave me alone, leave me alone.
Can't think, I should get paid high. Just pay me more.
Money.
I deserve more money. I'm
money,
worth
money,
it.
money,
well, that's obviously valid too. But have you considered these things? You've got kind of two sides of the coin, surviving and thriving. And the surviving side of things, you've got your rent, your bills, council tax, especially when you cease to be students. You've got to think about those things. Do you have any kids that you've got to pay for? School, uniforms, food. Income tax. Obviously, if you're earning, you've got to pay tax. Food. Pretty self-explanatory. We can't get free pizza all day, every day, unfortunately. And of course, travel costs. Then thriving. Not just surviving, but actually, I want to have money aside to do other things. Netflix, I want to enjoy TV, media. I want to go on holiday. I don't just want to be stuck in London all the time. I might want a car. You also want to think about things like, how much time and money did you spend on acquiring the skills that you have today that you're now selling? And what's the going rate? So what are your competitors charging? Is that a raised hand? Yeah, go for it.
Also the money that you have to put for like equipment as well, that like maybe they don't always see that you always need.
Yeah.
So like if you're doing something for like a logo, you might not have all the software that you need to make the job like successful. Yeah, exactly, 100%. So there's equipment that you're going to have to buy, and there's one important one that's missing out from there that we talked about before in that true or false. Can anyone remember what that one that's missing? And it goes in surviving more than thriving. Can anyone think of what that missing one is? Anyone feeling brave? There's no wrong answers, by the way. There's no wrong answers.
I can't remember, so you'll be doing better than me.
Well, when you're a freelancer, if you're not working, you don't get paid. So you need to factor in those thriving holidays. You need to factor in your sick pay. If you get COVID or you get sick, the flu, you break your leg, you can't work, you need to factor in that as well. So with those things considered, does anyone want to come up, we won't do Menti, so it's okay, but does anyone want to come up with an amount? How much would you propose now? We've all agreed it's higher. Any figures? Now you've factored in things like your rent, your bills, how much you spent acquiring that skill, the fact you want to go on holiday once a year. Just remember, this is one project. So what price are you going to propose to them for that 4 weeks? There's no right or wrong answer, although I think we're all in agreement that it's higher than 1,500 quid. 5,000? Any other suggestions? I like 5,000. I think that's a reasonable rate for that amount of work and that scope.
What went on in your head when you were coming up with that figure?
And then obviously you've got to consider everything you have to pay for within the month and the work you're putting in. So I just thought that like it kind of is just a nice encompassing like price. So you know that you can pay all these things with 5,000 a month, hopefully, unless you have a spending problem. But yeah, that's just it. Really.
Yeah, I think 5,000 is a reasonable figure for all of that work. I mean, you're putting on an event, you're hosting something, you're making a video. All of those things take a lot of time. Then you've got to create logo, signage, loads of stuff. Yeah. It's like pass the parcel.
When you say video, you might also need someone to edit it, so you might need to hire again someone else.
Yeah.
And also for maybe other things that, again, they don't take into consideration.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of figure would you put then for that whole project? What would you propose?
It depends, because if you have to get someone who's a video editor, for example, then you'd have to charge according to what they would charge as well.
Yeah.
So you could pay them.
Quite a lot on top. Yeah, for sure. Does anyone on this side of the room have a figure that they might come up with? Say, actually, I would propose this. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just interesting to hear people's opinions on it.
I'd probably say 5,000 as well, because you've got to think about negotiation as well.
Yeah.
If like the client say no, and then go back with a lower figure. But, yeah,
exactly. You might say, they've said 1,500, you might say 5,000, and then actually they're going to come back and say, let's meet in the middle, let's do £3,500, £4,000. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very spot on there. So finally, just a few things on thinking about that as well. I feel like that slide's in the wrong place, but I'm going to go with it anyway. In terms of being self-employed versus a limited company. If you're a self-employed person and you're setting up and you're charging, there's slightly less admin involved, especially if it's not your main source of income. If you do have a limited company and you choose to go that way, there is more admin, but it's easier to grow and it's easier to employ people as well. Now, how you kind of pay tax as well is going to change and differ based on if you're self-employed or a limited company. Now, if you do want to register as self-employed, if you do want to be self-employed, it's really, really important that you actually register to do that. So even if you're not earning, there's a certain threshold of what you can earn before you have to pay tax. It's actually not that much. Certainly, you wouldn't be able to survive on anything less than that amount if it's your only source of income, but it's really easy to do that. All you have to do is register as self-employed, and then I thoroughly recommend that your second step is you go onto Career Zone. I'm just going to plug Career Zone now. Who's used it? Can I have a show of hands? No one's used Career. Oh, one person used Career Zone. A couple of people. No. Definitely recommend. Okay, so we've got like 3 hands. 3 people have used Career Zone. Definitely recommend you Google UEL Career Zone, top result, and you can book a one-to-one with myself or with Matt if you're thinking about your career. If you want to do that enterprise freelancing thing, I'm just going to plug it now while it's there. Please book a one-to-one with us once you've registered, because we'll go through these things in more depth. We'll talk about the tax and stuff like that. So once you've Googled it, you register for self-assessment, tap it in, boom, takes about 10 minutes and you're done. Then you don't have to worry about it other than when you've got to fill in your return. I see a question, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. I try to use the Career Zone and I do get like a lot of emails from them, but every time I see any opportunity from them, like maybe funded internship schemes or anything, none of those opportunities are for the international students. It's always everything only for EU and UK students. So even if I want to, I can't use the Career Zone for...
So I think it is unfortunately the case with funded internships that UEL offers. They are only for domestic students and EU students, if it even is EU students still. But in terms of the volunteering opportunities, in terms of the commercial internships, they should be more widely applicable. So yeah, it is a source of frustration, I know. But that should only apply to the UEL funded internships where the money is made available there's just some conditions in which UEL is able to spend that money. So yeah.
Yeah, it is unfortunately the case, but there is still a lot of other things you can get from Career Zone. There's a lot of value you can draw from there. For example, booking appointments with myself and Matt and other careers coaches, because you can have like a CV review. We can go over what you want to do. We'll talk about it more at the end, but I just wanted to plug it while we're there. But yeah, if you have any more questions on that, we'll take that at the end. And then let's just go back to where we were, thinking about what I can charge. Now, this is just a way that can help you to think about that, actually, what should I charge? What can I charge? Now, one of the ways that you want to start thinking about it is, how many hours are you going to work in the year? Okay, right, so how many weeks are you going to work? How many days are you going to work? How many hours are in a day that you're going to work? You're going to times all of those together. You might get 1380 hours, for example. Then you're going to think about, what are my indirect costs to survive? So all of those things we talked about before, these things, what are my surviving costs? What are my indirect costs that I need? You're going to top them all up. Once you've done that, you're going to create yourself a survival budget, okay? And then you're going to work out your hourly rates. So your survival budget plus your indirect costs, total together, what's my hourly rate? Divide it by 1380, that's your hourly rate. Does anyone want to, in fact, I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to think about that. Now, obviously, it's a very personal thing, so don't feel like you have to share that. But I just want you to spend a minute or two just thinking about that while we progress through, because it's really important that you have an idea of what that figure is in your mind, so that you know when you are setting that work, when you are negotiating those contracts, you know, right, I need to be at least charging this, and I've got to factor in the costs of that project as well. And finally, that all-important tax one. No one really likes paying tax, but we have to pay it because it pays for schools, roads, hospitals, streets, healthcare, etc., etc. So just to kind of overview on how tax works, if you're self-employed, as we said, you do that registration, and then once a year, or maybe twice a year, you complete your own tax return, and there are certain things you can treat as expenses. So if you have to buy a laptop that you work on, you're obviously going to use it for Netflix as well. The government knows that, but you can claim a portion of those costs for that as an expense. Similarly, if you're a limited, slightly differently, if you're a limited company, you pay what's known as corporation tax on the profits that the company earns. Now, the profits is what's counted after all of the costs that the company incurs. So if you're salarying yourself from the company, that is a cost. And what's left, the business, the limited company is taxed on. So I'm going to hand over to Matt now, who's going to we're coming towards the afternoon. The freelancers, they've done their pitching, they've figured out how much they get, they've gone back home, they've totted up the sums, they've figured it all out. But also, as a freelancer, you've got 1,000,001 other things that you're going to be doing. You're going to be vying for work, trying to secure other contracts. You might be working on multiple contracts and pieces of work and projects at the same time. So Matt's going to kind of talk about this afternoon of, all right, I've done all those in the morning, now I need to organise the rest of my time as a freelancer.
Thanks, Seb. Just a couple of things to add on to the piece Seb was talking about in terms of choosing how much you charge. So I think there's one part which is knowing all your costs, and so making sure that your costs are reflected in the rate that you charge. The other part is knowing what your competitors are charging. So it's all very well, working out that, you need sort of 25 quid an hour, but if everyone else is offering 20, then you're unlikely to be competitive if you're going up against other people for the work. So you kind of need to kind of calibrate those things. And if the going rate for a particular service isn't quite what you need to support your life, then you need to do some thinking about, are there some higher value things that you can pitch for, and/or do you need to look at being more flexible in terms of your kind of cost base? The other thing that just occurred to me when we were talking about the difference between what the client wanted to pay, and this is often the case with small business owners, especially if they don't understand marketing, versus what you think the project is worth, rather than just going back and saying, well, actually, to do all that would cost 5,000, not 1,500, which, as you can imagine, if you're the business owner, you're like to go, oh, well, don't like the sound of that. What you can do is say, well, this is what I could do for 1,500. I could do, a logo and a blah. If you did want me to do the rest, there would be an additional charge, and here's why, because that's going to take me, 2 weeks, and this is the process I go to. And if you want to do the video, I'm going to need to work with an editor, and we're going to need to do some filming, so that's going to cost some extra. So helping the client understand the process and showing them what you can do for the budget they've said is available, but also why it's reasonable that you're looking to go beyond that to do the extra work. Because some clients, if you're working for a marketing agent, for example, they will know how your discipline works. But let's say you are working for a local business, they may know very little about marketing, so you need to educate them about what is possible, what's not possible, but in a way that doesn't make them feel like you're trying to get more out of them than they're willing to spend. Does that make sense? Any questions on any of that before we move on? Sound good to people? Okay, amazing. So yeah, Seb says the third kind of skill that we wanted to talk about today is really about how you manage everything that you might have to do if you're running your own business, because slightly different to working for a company in an employed role. Even there, you'll use lots of skills, have lots of different tasks. There's a whole bunch of stuff you don't have to worry about there that you do need to think about when you're a freelancer. Seb talked about keeping on touch with your finances, but whereas a business might have somebody who does the sales, it might have someone who does the finance, it might have someone who does the IT. As a small business, as an individual, you might end up doing all of those things, and often all of those things in one day. So I wanted to share a kind of a tool with you, one of, I'm sure many that are out there. Has anyone come across this, the kind of urgent important matrix? Anyone come across this? Yep, a few of you? Yeah, okay. So for anyone that hasn't, just to kind of explain how this works, and this was coined, I think, by, allegedly by the American President Eisenhower, and hence the kind of the name. And really the distinction that is crucial to this is the difference between what is genuinely important and what is urgent. Now, important is defined here as something that is going to deliver the most value from that activity. It's something that is worth doing. It's going to deliver impact. It's going to yield a result. It's going to be kind of worthwhile. And the contrast is something urgent, and it's quite difficult to tell the two often. So something urgent would be something that has a very pressing deadline, or somebody shouting very loudly telling you this thing is really important. Sort of to give you some examples, it might be that something that is important is that something that is important and urgent might be like an assignment that's due, and that has both a deadline that is urgent or a client piece of work that's deliverable. So it's both urgent in that there's a deadline, but it's important in terms of that it delivers a lot of value. It's important there'll be a consequence if you don't do it. Something that might be urgent but not important is, I don't know, a friend really wants to help you with something, and they're bugging you and they're on your phone the whole time, and it feels like, I need to do this. And so it might be urgent for someone else, but it's not necessarily kind of urgent for you. But often those two things get mixed up, because when things feel urgent, that feeling we get of urgency feels like it means it's also important. And so Eisenhower proposed this matrix of things that are both have a deadline, so that it's time critical, but it is also a high value task. So like having a client deadline, like having said you'll get back to a client about a new piece of work, maybe even like doing your tax return. Things that are kind of sort of important, so they are still important that you get done, but they don't necessarily have that time criticality to them. So there it might be a piece of training that's important for your skill set to stay current. It doesn't have a specific time frame, but it's going to be important to your work. It might be, and this is one that often slips, keeping on top of social media for your business. So there might not be a particular time pressure that you have to have posted by a certain point in time, but if you don't do it, you might not get the visibility for your business. That's one that's important, but not necessarily kind of urgent. And then the tasks that are urgent, not important. So we talked about that. So it might be, this is another one. Someone's trying to sell you something and they're phoning you a lot and emailing you. And it feels like, oh, I need to get back to them or they'll feel bad. That's one that's kind of feels urgent, but actually it's not important. And you could choose either that doesn't need to be doing, or maybe I could get someone else to do that. And the fourth category says the ones that are neither urgent nor important. And those, basically, he suggests you could ditch. So what I want you to do is I've constructed a to-do list that anyone running their own business might be familiar with. And in your kind of groups, in your pairs or threes that you were in before, you're going to have a go at putting this to-do list in those four kind of quadrants. So I'd invite you to take a picture of this, so you've got a reminder. So take a picture of your phone, on your phone, of this. So you've got the four quadrants, or make a note in a notepad, whatever's easiest for you. So at least one of you've got that to refer to. Has everyone got that? Yep. Okay. So here is your to-do list for the day. I want you to sort this into those four quadrants and work out what are the things that are must-do today and what are the things that can wait and what are the things that don't need doing at all. So I'll just talk through them so you're clear what they are. So one is to attend a networking breakfast or a networking event that is happening on this day. Speak to the tax man, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, that's what HMRC stands for, about a tax issue. You've got a letter, let's say, about a tax overpayment. There's a client that was meant to pay you 2 weeks ago, and you haven't received the money yet. Your desk is a mess, needs tidying. You've got a deadline to get a design. Let's say it's a piece of work we've been doing to a client for approval. That's due today. There's 2 client leads for an event you went to last week, and they need following up. There's a holiday deal for the summer that you really want to book, and it expires at the end of the week. Going to the gym speaks for itself. You've got a software subscription, Microsoft Office. It keeps bugging you, telling you it needs renewing. You've got a message on your phone from an angry client, piece of work you did for them, they can't get it to work. Can you get back to them as soon as you can? And you want an award that you still haven't posted about on social media. So it's a long list of stuff. It's unlikely you're going to get it all done today. So I want you to go through, use the matrix to help you work out what is kind of both important and urgent. So what's a must-do? What do you need to plan to do this week, but it's okay if it doesn't happen today? And what could you potentially sort of park? So I'm going to give you kind of 5 minutes just to confer with each other. If you're viewing from home, doing it on your own, use the matrix to sort it yourself and work out what's priority. And then I'll ask you for you to tell us what's a must-do and what can wait. Any questions on that? No? Got it? Okay, go. Um, 5 minutes. No, 3 minutes. What's that? It is. So give you 1 more minute, and then we'll hear what you're thinking. Yes, Okay, so let's hear from some of the groups. Who wants to go? What are you keeping in? What's urgent and important? What do you think can wait? Mike, please.
So attending networking breakfast, we think, is important but not urgent.
Yep.
Speaking to HMRC regarding tax issue is important and urgent. Chase a client for overdue payment, which is important but not urgent. Tidy your desk is not important, not urgent. Get design to a client for approval due today. It's important and urgent.
So just say, listen up, everybody, and then if you've got a different view, I'd like to hear your different view. But this is great. Thank you. Carry on.
Okay. Follow up on 2 client lead, which is important but not urgent. Research a holiday deal with your mates expires this week, which is not important but urgent. Go to the gym is important but not urgent. Renew Microsoft Office is important and urgent. Respond to an angry client message, which is important but not urgent. And posting about award on social media is important but not urgent.
Okay. So if I heard you right, how many things did you have in there that were important and urgent?
6, I think, yeah, 6.
Perfect. So yes, so you already were able to whittle down what seemed like a very important and urgent list to some that could needed to happen today, some that can wait. For what you heard, does anyone have a different take on some of those things? Any of the things that were important but not urgent you disagreed on? Yeah?
Yeah, it would depend on whether you've actually got the payment from the client yet. So it would be very urgent if, they're angry and they might dispute something with you in terms of payment, maybe, mark down like how much they pay you. So I would say that's both important and urgent for both reasons anyway, because you don't want to anger your client because they might not recommend you to anyone else either.
Really, really, really helpful. I'll come back to that point in a minute. Anyone got any others that they think they had a different view on how they would rank them? I can't believe you all agreed. Surely not.
Like tidy your desk and go to the gym. Everyone has different priorities. So for me, tidy your desk would be really important and maybe not urgent but important.
Yep.
And maybe for some other person, going to the gym may not be important, but for someone it may be important. So it depends.
Such a good point. So there isn't no absolute with this list or any other. There's going to be a lot of contextual information that's going to help you, and it's going to dynamic. It might change. So one client being angry might be a situation where you're like, oh, that client's always angry, I'll get back to them in 2 days, that's fine. Another one, as you say, you might not have been paid yet, or they're a really important client, so you'll have to exercise your kind of judgment, so it won't necessarily be clear cut. So as you said, chasing a client for an overdue payment, well, I've waited 2 weeks, what difference could a week make? Or it might be, well, my rent's due next week, I really, really need this payment, and I'm worried they're going to run away. That might be kind of top of your list. So it just depends on kind of the context. And what I really loved about your point, which brings me on to my final slide for this section, is well-being, especially when you're a freelancer, can sometimes feel like it's a nice to have, like it's kind of optional. But actually, we all know that there's certain times when it might be tidying our desk just to feel sane and feel kind of organized, it might be going to the gym or going for a walk, actually isn't non-urgent. It actually is both important and urgent. And so I think it's really important to understand that when you're a freelancer, you are your best resource. Like if you're not in a good state, I mean, you can see the cartoon there. You know, if you're knackered, if your mental health is suffering, if you're not working productively, then your business isn't working productively. So actually taking care of yourself, whilst it's something that we can easily kind of push to one side, you know, is something that we should take just as seriously as those things like, you know, deadlines and clients and money and all that kind of thing. So yeah, really impressed with what you guys came up with. Should I carry on, Seb? Yeah, I'll carry on just for the minute. So we're pretty much running to the end of the session. So we just wanted to take a chance for you to kind of reflect on what you've experienced and what you've heard in the session. As we discovered at the outset, so for some of you totally new to freelancing, others of you know a little bit about what it's about. So maybe I'll just get some kind of observations from the room in the interest of time. So first question is, what did you enjoy or what did you learn from the activities that we did today? I'll just take 2 or 3. Anything people particularly enjoyed or they learned? You've got the microphone, so yeah, please start us off.
It's important to see like each kind of situation, and not in one way, but not in 2 ways, sometimes 3 different ways. Yep. So you can see it from like different perspectives. Yeah. From like yourself, maybe the customer, and like maybe like a future customer as well, you know? Yeah. I mean, if that's one thing you take out today, that is so important. When we're selling, when we're putting ourselves out there, we tend to think all from our perspective, what we need, our expenses, our time, whatever, and putting ourselves in the shoes of a customer or other people that we work with is super, super helpful. So that is brilliant. 2 more takeaways from today. 2 more takeaways. This side of the room. I haven't heard from you for a while. Something you've taken out from one of the activities today. Any takeouts from you guys? No, nothing. Okay. What about you guys? Yeah.
Firstly, I enjoyed the pizza. Thank you. And yeah, it was quite helpful to get the information about how much you should charge people and how much you should expect to make for yourself and stuff. Because I know that when people first go into things and stuff, they can get ripped off and underpay themselves quite a lot and then be in trouble because of that. But yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah, really helpful. One more takeaway. Share with the group. Anyone else? One more takeaway. Anything from
you? Edible bribes are effective at maintaining my attention.
What was that?
Edible bribes are effective at maintaining my attention, i.e. pizza.
This is really good to know, right?
That was a good strategy to start
off the
presentation.
That could be one option, but a really good example of this is we were talking about this in another session on maybe about networking or something like that. But anyway, it was basically if you want to find time with someone who doesn't have much time to give you, so it could be when you're trying to get hold of a prospective client. Let's say there's an organization you want to work with, you're trying to reach them, inviting them out for lunch or buying them coffee is a really good way to bribe them for a time because, you know, everyone needs to eat and I often respond well to the idea of a free lunch. So yeah, absolutely. Take that principle as part of your sales strategy. Very, very cool. So quick show of hands just to kind of finish this part of the session. Do you feel like freelancing's for you? Yeah, don't worry if not. That would be just as valid an outcome. If you think freelancer isn't for you, then that's fine. Hands up if you think, actually, nah, I've learned a bit more about what it's about and I really don't think it's for me. Anybody? Yeah? Yeah, do you mind to tell me why? So the second hand was if you, from what you've experienced today, you're like, actually, no, freelancing isn't for me. Don't worry if you weren't putting the hand up for that. Information overload, fair enough. As Seb said, I think we're going to talk about how we can kind of help you, for those of you that are thinking of going and doing some freelancing. So I'll hand over to you just to polish things off.
So we did briefly just touch on Career Zone, which quite a lot of you said, I've never used that before. There's a really, I don't know why it's so small, but there's a really small screenshot of what Career Zone looks like. As you can see, as I mentioned, if you Google UEL Career Zone, simple, you sign on like you would any other UEL student portal, you type in your Microsoft ID, you're in. You can book your one-to-one appointment with myself, Matt, or one of the other CASE Careers and Student Enterprise team. You can gain new skills. There are modules you can sign on to. There's a jobs board you can sign on to. There's all sorts of things that you can do through that platform. So I thoroughly recommend you check it out. There's a few other things that we've kind of listed out. So develop core professional skills and your freelancing skills. We can help you do that. If you're looking for a professional mentor, so maybe someone who is already absolutely nailing it as a freelancer and you want to kind of learn what it's like from them, you can do that through Career Zone. You can book those one-to-one appointments, and also there are lots of volunteering opportunities for you to gain and build those transferable skills that you can then take away. And another really important key one is those mock interviews. Finally, I'm just going to leave you on one other thing, and that's Backed. So one of the programs that we run is called UEL Backed, and it's essentially to enable you to test, start, and make a success of your business. So there's 4 tiers, including for visa students: Idea, Start, and Revive. They all come with a bit of grant funding, and they're designed to kind of help you test and validate your idea. Now, I've also got one other thing that isn't on the slide, and that's called a Freelancers Marketplace. Can I just get a show of hands who's heard of Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer.com? Yeah, pretty much everyone in the room. So UEL, this month, I've launched their own version, their own answer to that. So I thoroughly recommend you get signed up to what we're calling East London Talent. Get yourself signed up on there, create your own profile, because it gives you the opportunity to test out these things as being a freelancer within the safety and the confines of the university environment. So you don't have to worry about those things. We will help you secure those clients. We will help you to develop your online portfolios now while you can. I'm not going to give a demo of that, and unfortunately I don't have the slides. Remember, I'm just going to go back to the start where our email address is our. I really regret doing that now because PowerPoint's going to freeze and it's going to crash. Still going. Yeah. Please take down our email addresses as well. If you're interested in either of those things, if you're interested in that Freelancers Marketplace or the Backed program, please do email us. Please do come to us. Please let us know, because we will send you links to all of those resources. I think that is pretty much. I have something,
hopefully, that will be a nice way to finish. We just have a video from recent alumni, many of who are working in a freelance capacity. So if the tech works, I'm just going to play you it. It's only 3 minutes in length. Where's my mouse? Sorry about the rather scary screenshot. It's thinking about it. If not, I'll just put it into YouTube. Oh, it was just about to go, wasn't it?
I think we just had it then.
Let me just... Audio, any suggestions?
How good are your dubbing skills, Matt?
Yeah, my...
That was something.
If it's too tricky, don't worry. We'll pause it then.
through the room.
Yeah, so basically we went out to sort of alumni across the sort of the ACI and ACE courses. So these are all sort of very recent students. If it doesn't work, we'll send it round, telling about what they're up to now and some tips on those of you who are starting out. I think that's the mics.
Designer in an advertising agency specializing in social media marketing for famous brands.
I teach at the University of Roehampton, University of Falmouth, and the University.
My name is Callie Hendricks.
Abby Conroy.
Tishani. Stanley Tar.
Jordan Holland's here.
Esmini Sofa.
Zaina.
Martin.
I studied performing arts at UEL and I graduated last year.
I'm a former graduate of the BA Honours Film degree.
I'm a fashion design graduate. I graduated last year.
I graduated in animation and illustration.
I studied a BA in creative and professional writing.
I studied sports journalism at the University of East London.
I am employed by Cirque du Soleil to run as a stage manager, assistant stage manager for both Ka and Michael Jackson 1.
What I'm currently doing now is working at a digital marketing agency called Yay Starter Marketing.
Usual role is actually camera assistant or camera trainee. I'm also currently building up my own production company. And just to give you an example of some of the stuff that I have worked on, I've worked on Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Line of Duty, Vikings Valhalla, and I've been working professionally since my second year at UEL back in 2014. On a freelance basis, so I work from contract to contract, production to production.
I'm currently a quality assurance editor for Eurosport and Discovery Plus to help with their coverage of the Winter Olympic Games in Beijing.
I'm currently working for a brand called House of Holland. It sells for ASOS too.
I'm currently working as a motion designer in an advertising agency specializing in social media marketing for famous brands.
I teach at the University of Roehampton, University of Falmouth, and the University of East London.
And why I love it is because it's very challenging and I'm constantly learning so many new things. I love running tracks. I love learning all the nits and crannies that go into a show, and it really is awesome.
And I think that's why I love this career so much, is that it allows me to network with other people who have the same kind of interests as me, producers, directors, coordinators, writers as well.
I get to gain practical experience with regards to digital marketing, such as SEO, advertising, and content creation.
It has its challenges, but it's a very rewarding job at the end of it.
Why do I love my job? Well, it's my dream job. I've always dreamed of working in the film industry and working with like-minded people. And the best thing about my job is that I get to go across the whole of the UK and Ireland, and sometimes further afield.
I've just always loved it. I've always gravitated towards the written word.
And I also love that our projects are usually meaningful projects that can make an impact, helping other people or the environment.
And I would say to anyone that's finishing their degree at the minute at UEL is just to take any opportunity you can.
I think that this is the best time to work in the creative industries. There are so many opportunities.
The tip that I would say is to put your all into everything that you can do.
Don't quit, no matter how hard things seem to be, no matter how stressful you may get, things may get, just don't quit.
Create as much content as you can, create a digital portfolio, and then attach that to your CV so that you can stand out to employers.
Enjoy the process, put yourself out there, network, and just be involved with like-minded people.
Don't be scared to try new things.
Don't give up, keep pushing yourself, and try not to get too disheartened, because you will get there eventually.
In the fashion industry, there are so many opportunities.
I promise you, you will not regret it. And just never, never give up.
You'll never know until you try. And what's on the other side, unless you try.
You're at the finish line, almost. Cross it.
Thanks so much. Best of luck.
Okay, I think that's all from myself and Seb, so I hope that was useful and kind of thought-provoking. And yeah, you know now where to come if you want some help kind of getting to whatever the next stage is with your own kind of freelance and professional kind of journey. So thank you everybody for coming. Help yourself to pizza still. I'm sure there's still lots left over. And come and probably hang around for 5 minutes or so if anyone's got any specific questions. Otherwise, you can book the one-to-ones, like Seb said, on Career Zone. But thank you all. Really nice to meet you. Thank you for participating so enthusiastically.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's been great having you. Oh, look, Sos.